I'm here with Dodgers prospect Dalton Rushing. Phenomenal year this year. I mean, the power, just doing everything, but also the defense continuing to just become a big focal point for you. Yeah. How was the year how was the year for you, and what did you feel like really clicked for you, in the minor leagues?
Yeah, it was a big year, big learning year, honestly. From the defensive side of things, more than anything, like you had mentioned. Offense, I kind of hit a little hiccup towards the middle of the season, had a few injuries that kind of off to the side, whatever. But yeah, no, I ended up being a pretty good year. Power showed in a tough league to show power. But yeah, it was great. More on the defensive side, I was just learning to really handle a pitching staff and how can I get as close as possible? How can I mold with them on the same level and understand what they want to throw in certain situations and how to control the game, basically.
Especially important when you're in an organization like the Dodgers, which is going to be perpetually loaded with arms.
Absolutely.
How did that make the process of kind of learning how to call a game and just learning how to manage a staff on another level? Did it make it more interesting when you're working with pitchers who are so talented? I'm sure it made it a little bit more challenging at times, but
yeah, I was kind of speaking on it earlier. They set the standard so high. You catch these guys and you go from Yamamoto to Walker Buehler to Tyler Glasnow to Bobby Miller as a fourth man. It's pretty crazy just to begin with. But being able to catch these guys, work with them, understand the way that they like to pitch, and understand their arsenal and what works best in whatever situation has honestly opened more doors for myself moving forward with other guys that may not have the stuff that these guys have, but they really understand how to pitch, and it's up to me to kind of help them and guide them through the gates.
So something that I think is unique, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you didn't catch nearly as much in college.
No,
so
no.
You didn't really get the everyday, or not every day, but at least full-fledged catching reps until you were a pro. So
correct.
When did you feel like you started to settle in a little bit in terms of just you get your rhythm and have a little bit more of a routine? Not that you didn't have that before, but maybe just on a different level in terms of just being settled in.
Yeah, I was honestly probably halfway through last year. Like you had mentioned, I didn't really catch the first 2 years of college. It was Henry was catching.
So there's been a lot of good catchers coming out of the league.
We've had some pretty good catchers in the last 8 years or so. But yeah, so I played a lot of first base my first 2 years, and then getting into pro ball, it wasn't until about halfway through the season last year is when I really found a routine that worked for me, and understood how important that routine was every single day, running through it to make sure that I'm prepared for the game from the first pitch to the very last pitch. But yeah, no, it's been great, especially in camp. I'm starting to learn new things as well, throw them into the routine, and I'm able to run with them as much as possible.
How hard is it to stay up on the offensive side of things when so much of your bandwidth is now being diverted to the catching side? Or maybe it's not. I did load that question.
Yeah, no, first it's spring training. First, no one's really worried about the at-bats that you're taking right now. The main goal is get comfortable. Get comfortable for the season. Put yourself in a great spot to be able to do the things that you want to do throughout a full season. And for me, right now, the focus is defensive side of things. So they say it all the time in the clubhouse, hitters hit, they're always going to hit. So it's one of those things, I honestly, I'm all right, I'm just going to carry the approach that I've had for the last 6-8 years of my life.
Well.
And and I just put it to the side and say, okay, I'm catching during spring training. And that's really my main focus. And I'm just allowing the bat to take care of itself. You got to think, baseball, you already have the lower hand. As a hitter, you don't have the advantage here. So it's more you just need to take advantage of as much as you can in the box when you're there. And as a catcher, it even makes it even easier on you, because as much as you can control the defensive side of things, it makes your job that much easier on the offensive side of things.
So defensively, what are some specific things that you've kind of been keyed in on to continue to focus and improve upon? Some things that came easier to you as you got more reps and said, okay, this is something that I turned the corner on very quickly.
Yeah.
Versus some other things that it's been a little bit more of a concerted effort to develop.
Yeah, from a defensive side of things, the throwing was never really a problem. No one really ever worried about being able to throw, the catch and throw, all of that. It was more of the receiving and how comfortable I could get. So from a comfort standpoint, I'd probably say that's probably the biggest thing. How comfortable can I get back there to be able to do it 110 times a year? But there's nothing really in particular that I'm trying to hammer right now. It's more just find my comfort zone, what works for me, and whatever works for me also has to work for the guy 60 feet in front of me. So,
Yeah.
you know.
You said Yamamoto. You said catching Yamamoto, so I got to ask you about
Yeah.
we saw the spring training outing, which was, I know it's 2 innings, I know it's spring training, but like, you make good.
Just wait till he goes 5. Yeah.
At splitters, like it's a joke. You got to guess up there, and even then you're in trouble. What was it like catching him for the first time? Like, what were you?
I almost feel like I'm having an at bat. It's almost like I'm up to bat in a way, but no, it's one of those things, like, you have to see it a couple times before you find comfort with it. And I mean, that's every single catcher in our organization or in the big leagues right now for us. Like, they didn't really understand what every single pitch was doing until catching him 3 times. So it's like, it's not an easy task at all to catch a man like that. Like I mentioned, Tyler Glasnow, like, he's also, like, I would probably say he might be the toughest to catch, because it's just, it feels like he's handing you a baseball at 100 miles an hour. So it's like moving every which direction. So yeah, this is a very good staff for me to be able to work on the receiving side of things, because if you can catch this, you can catch just about anything.
Out of the entire staff so far, has there been, I guess you kind of teased it with Glasnow, has there been like a specific pitch that somebody has that's the most difficult? Maybe it's the Glasnow breaking ball or the fastball or that splitter.
It would probably be Yamamoto's splitter or Glasnow's curveball.
What makes those 2 pitches so hard to catch? You mentioned like almost feeling like he's handing it off to you.
Yeah, it's more of like how delayed the break is. It's like
Yamamoto's nightmare.
Yeah, Yamamoto throws a splitter and it looks like a fastball until about 5 feet in front of you, and you're like, oh, I need to react. Same thing with Glasnow. He's handing you a baseball like 40 feet almost from you, and it's a curveball just at 87. So it's not easy. But no, you catch him a couple times, you get comfortable, and like it kind of builds your confidence a little bit, being able to like comfortably like catch these guys and make sure that they feel good on the mound as much as you do.
Do you feel like Will Smith is like a great template in terms of just a guy that was offensive first?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
But now has become such a solid defender. And
yes.
Has turned into one of the best catchers in the game. But seeing that, hey, he got to the big leagues before. Everything was perfect catching-wise. And now has developed as a catcher as he already solidified himself.
Correct, yeah.
Good catcher at the big league level. Is that somebody that you lean on a decent amount, or even just look towards as like, that's a good template?
Absolutely. I mean, similar paths, about as similar as it gets. So it's pretty cool. He's as down to earth, as cool as anyone I've ever met in that clubhouse. Yeah, he's a great guy to learn from. I mean, he had the same struggles that I worried about getting into pro ball, and so it's easier to mold with a guy like that and learn the ways that he overcame them. I know in 2019, I hear all these stories when he debuted and they're making a playoff push, and here you have a 23-year-old catcher running the game back there, and it was kind of a hiccup in the road for him, and he'll be the first to admit it. So yeah, he shares those kind of stories with me, and it's really cool to just hear those things and be able to say, okay, this 6 months from now, this could be me. Like, learn as much as I can verbally before it actually happens physically.
I love it. That's awesome. And the last thing I'll ask you is, I've been asking everybody, you probably have the most difficult answer because of how loaded the organization is.
Yeah.
I'm excluding Ohtani, but if you could collect a card, and Mookie, I'm keeping on. Those guys are two.
Yeah.
If you could collect a card from somebody in the organization, it could be a prospect or, a big league guy, a rookie. I'm going to encourage you to not pick an obvious Dodger star, because there's too many. Now you need to exclude Freeman too.
Yeah, no, you can exclude those guys. I have a really good answer for you.
Yeah, who would it be?
Bobby Miller, without a doubt. It's pretty cool. I've seen him since he was 19, 20 years old. Called him at that age, and it was like the way that he's evolved year after year, he just gets better. When the lights come on, Bobby Miller gets better. It's Miller time. They say it all the time. Yeah, he's a guy that's, if I had to pick one guy in that clubhouse that hasn't solidified himself as a Hall of Famer, that has a very good chance of being a Hall of Famer, I'd probably have to say Bobby Miller. It's
so annoying that you can put that caveat in, and there's 3 guys that we're talking about that we can exclude, and then a 4th, you can include Kershaw, and then
he could be our 4th man in our rotation.
It's just
it's a joke. It is a joke, but I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to put your cleats on and go play baseball.
Absolutely, and I'm excited to see you do that this year.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
Time, and I'm really excited to see what you're going to do.
Absolutely, thank you so much.